Hello everyone, Keir Smith here, back with another video. Welcome to Music Roundup Volume 3. This is where I talk about anything from current affairs to my current favourite songs and albums and a few other things in between. To start with, the dust is finally settling on the big news that brothers Noel and Liam Gallagher were burying the hatchet after all these years and reforming Oasis. Now, as I said in a video I posted a few weeks back about this matter, I'm not a big fan of this whole reunion thing. I've seen Oasis live 3 times back in 1997, 2002 and 2006. So the idea of Oasis reforming with whatever other band members Noel and Liam decide to include, it didn't excite me. But what I did think was interesting, since the news was announced, I haven't seen any interviews with Noel nor read any quotes by him. He seems to be very tight-lipped on the whole affair. Of course, Liam has been very vocal on Twitter, or X as it's now called. And when asked by one fan about the potential of new Oasis material, he said that there was an album already in the bag. And as I said in my video, I'd certainly welcome that. I'd love to hear a new Oasis album. But Noel's silence, unless I'm missing something here, has been particularly interesting. I think that this is just going to be a money spinning tour, and who can blame them? There's a lot of money on the table, and Noel's just gone through this divorce. He's lost something like 20 million quid, and here's a surefire way to make it back real quick. And what an absolute farce that ticket sale was. What is the deal with this dynamic pricing? Our good friends at Ticketmaster see fit to drive the prices up on fans due to the huge demand for tickets. So fans who expected to pay the, what I think was £150 normal asking price, some fans ended up paying £350 to even £400 per ticket. Now, we can all sit here and cry about how unfair that is, and it is, but this dynamic pricing clearly worked. Fans ate up those tickets like they were hotcakes, so this dynamic pricing is surely going to continue for future shows. And that is a scary thought for concert goers who are keen to go and see these bands and artists. I must say, I myself am falling out of love with going to live shows. If it's a new show, then great, but I don't need to see the same bands and artists touring the same songs again and again and again. And I hate to sound like a grumpy old man, but I've been around a time or two, and I think I'm just growing a little bit tired with the predictability of it all. Which brings me on to my next point very nicely. As soon as Oasis announced their news that they were reforming for a series of shows, I thought to myself, this will kickstart a bit of a Britpop revival, I think. I don't know if any of you out there thought the same as me, but more or less a week later, Supergrass announced that they were getting back together to do a series of shows next year, where they'll be touring across Britain, celebrating 30 years of their debut album, I Should Coco, released back in 1995. I think I've also saw news that Pulp have reformed and that they're doing a series of shows. Blur were together last year and did a couple of sold out nights at Wembley. And Suede have been going strong of late, certainly over the last 6 or 7 years. They've been a true band, let's say, and put out 2 or 3 albums in that time, I think. So I think this Britpop revival is alive and kicking, which will certainly thrill the music press and our good friends at Ticketmaster, no doubt. And I was a teenager growing up in the 90s, so I have a lot of affection for that Britpop era, and I love all of those bands that I've just mentioned. I don't know, maybe I've turned into a bit of a music snob over the years, and I sort of roll my eyes now and think, oh, they're going out on tour again, are they? Where's the new material? Give me a new album. I want the artistry back in rock and roll. But whilst at work this past week, I did take a trip down memory lane and play some of those old Britpop favourites. I listened to my favourite Suede album, their second album, Dogman Star from 1994, and this boasted the singles We Are the Pigs, The Wild Ones and New Generation. But in particular, I love the sweeping ballad, The Two of Us, and the blazing guitars on the epic The Asphalt World. And I went back and listened to Blur's Park Life, which isn't an album that I was mad on back in the day, but over the years I've grown to like it more and more. And this has some great singles on it, the title track, Girls and Boys, To the End and End of a Century. But in particular, I like Clover Over Dover and the brilliant This Is a Low. And this is a great album too. Different Class by Pulp, Misshapes, Sorted for Ease and Whiz, Something Changed, Common People and Disco 2000. They were all huge singles. And elsewhere, I really like Pencil Skirt, and Feeling Called Love is possibly the standout track on the album for me. So there are three really good albums in my book by three of the big four of Britpop, the other one being Oasis. And I was going to go back and listen to What's the Story Morning Glory, but for some reason I can't bring myself to play this. It's a really good album, of course it is, but maybe I just overplayed it in my youth. I have a real problem playing Definitely Maybe and What's the Story Morning Glory, probably because the songs have been overplayed so much over the years. One of the main reasons why I didn't want to go out and see them on tour next year. It sounds like I've got a downer on Oasis, and maybe I have a little at the minute, but they were my favourite band growing up, apart from the Beatles, of course. Actually, I was thinking to myself earlier today, I must get a top 10 list together of my favourite bands for you all. I love a top 10 list. Top 10 favourite songs, top 10 favourite bands, top 10 favourite albums. It's all to come. But here's one band that most definitely won't be reforming, well, certainly not anytime soon, I don't think. The Smiths. Guitarist Johnny Marr's management said that they discovered that the Smiths trademark was not owned by the band, which has now led to Johnny Marr applying for the trademark himself, which was successful, and now he can protect the legacy of the band, as he said. It also gives him the right to go out and tour as the Smiths if he so wishes, but he's not going to do that. He's far too cool. But this didn't go down well with his old sparring partner Morrissey and his management team, by all accounts. They bemoaned the fact that Johnny Marr had done this and said that it stopped Morrissey from ever being involved with the Smiths. And apparently a big lucrative offer was put on the table for the Smiths to reform, which apparently, according to Morrissey's management team, he was all for. But Johnny Marr is against the idea and prefers to protect the legacy of the band and let sleeping dogs lie, and I champion that. And then I read news that Morrissey has now sacked his management team, so maybe the news was coming from his management team rather than Morrissey himself, but what a palaver. I hope the Smiths never reform, and I'll tell you, I am one of the biggest Smiths fans out there. I absolutely adore that band. Talking of top 10 lists, the Smiths would be in my possibly top 3 favourite bands ever. And what could the Smiths possibly achieve by getting back together now? And let's not forget, we sadly lost Andy Rourke, the bass player, in 2023. He passed away. So we're down to Johnny Marr, Morrissey and Mike Joyce. Now, let's not forget that Mike Joyce took Morrissey and Marr to court in the mid-90s, so they're not on good terms. No, it can't work. The Smiths were brilliant as the awesome foursome that they were. They did great work, but that was then and this is now. And speaking of the Smiths, now, can you believe this? Their last album, Strange Ways Here We Come, was released on the 28th of September 1987, which makes it 37 years old now. And what a great album to bow out with. A Rush and a Push and The Land Is Ours, Girlfriend in a Coma, Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before, Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me, Unhappy Birthday, I Won't Share You. 10 tracks, absolute gold, a brilliant album. And another great album that recently celebrated its anniversary, 30 years since Monster by R.E.M. was released. 27th of September 1994 was the original release date. Another great album which boasted some great hit singles like What's the Frequency Kenneth, Bang and Blame, Tongue and Strange Currencies. And this album rocks, especially the back end of the album with brilliant songs like I Took Your Name, Circus Envy and You, and a touching tribute to Kurt Cobain in the song Let Me In. I will tell you that I did go and watch Sting back in June earlier this year at Sherwood Pines in Nottingham. And this was all very last minute, I must say, because my friend Neil was supposed to be going with his good lady, but she didn't fancy it. So he rang me up on the Saturday night before the show that was on the Sunday, and I was drunk at that point, and it was one of them nights where I carried on drinking. So when I arrived at his house the next afternoon, I was worse for wear, let's say. And it was a good show, not great. It was a low-key affair. Sting performing with his trusty guitarist, Dominic Miller, and a drummer as a three-piece, as the Police were, I guess. And the set list was good, if a little predictable. Of course he played Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. Of course he played Roxanne, Every Breath You Take, King of Pain. And he played some solo songs too, like Englishman in New York, which I'm a big fan of. And probably less predictably, a lovely song from the Soul Cages called Why Should I Cry For You? And the evening ended with the gorgeous Fragile, which is an amazing song. One sweet surprise that was thrown into the set list was a great song by the Police from their Zenyatta Mondata album called Driven to Tears, which I'm a huge fan of. But No Wrapped Around Your Finger, No Invisible Sun, No Spirits in the Material World, No Fortress Around Your Heart, No Russians. Terrible. And it's really funny actually. I told my brother Liam that I'd been to see Sting and I said that it was a good show, not great, but I enjoyed it. And he said, "Oh, did he play this cowboy song?" And I said, "No, he definitely did not play this cowboy song." And as I've done in my 2 previous music roundup videos, I must tell you what my current favourite Paul McCartney album is, and that is 2005's Chaos in Creation in the Backyard, which I listened to twice last week and thoroughly enjoyed both times. And this album was produced by Nigel Godrich, who had done great work with Radiohead, OK Computer 1997, and Beck, Sea Change from 2002. Both brilliant albums, and apparently he pushed Paul hard on this album, which of course caused a few minor disagreements, let's say. But I think he got a really strong album out of Paul here. This is largely consistent throughout the 13 songs. You've got the Blackbird styled acoustic pickings of the lovely Jenny Wren, some lovely Macawimsey on English Tea. I really like Too Much Rain, which is a really nice song, and Friends to Go. And the album closes with 2 beautiful ballads, This Never Happened Before and Anyway. But Nigel Godrich also pushed Paul into some darker corners and got some great songs out of him, especially How Kind of You, Riding to Vanity Fair and At the Mercy. So a strong album, a really enjoyable listen, and really nice packaging too. And now for some other albums that I've gone back to and enjoyed of late, and I say gone back to because if you ask me, the old ones really are the best. But having said that, not too many will think that this is the best ELO album, but I certainly love it. This is Balance of Power from 1986. Not a bad moment on this record, start to finish. Gone are the big orchestral flourishes that you can find on their earlier albums and in-come synthesizers, but it's all very tastefully done if you ask me. I love the up-tempo, bouncy feel of songs like So Serious and Secret Lives. Sorrow About to Fall is a great ELO song, trust me. And it also has a big, stirring and emotional ballad in Getting to the Point, which is a fantastic song. And a fine rock album by Marillion. This is their second album with their second and current singer, Steve Hogarth, Holidays in Eden from 1991. It's a really strong offering from the band, and I think I might even like it a little bit more than their brilliant Season's End album from 1989. Great performances throughout this strong 10-song set by the band, and I have to give special mention to the brilliant Steve Rothery on lead guitar. He plays some scorching guitar solos on this, especially on the opening track, Splintering Heart, which is a great song. Other favourites include The Party, Dry Land, and the brilliant closing track, 100 Nights. And I've listened to this album a few times of late, and I think that this is one of the true hidden gems of the 80s. This is Hats by Blue Nile from 1989. This is a really deep and emotional album. It's painfully sad at times and continues to tug on my heartstrings every time I play it, but it's absolutely beautiful. There's only 7 songs on it, but each one is a gem of its own. But in particular, I love the Downtown Lights, Headlights on the Parade, and the gorgeous Let's Go Out Tonight. And some songs that I've really been enjoying of late. Do you know the song And So It Goes by Billy Joel? A hymn-like piano ballad with emotive lyrics. It's a really beautiful thing, and I read that Billy Joel said that of all the songs he's written, that one is his favourite, so there's a good recommendation for you. And the song Limelight by Rush, taken from their excellent Moving Pictures album. Just a great performance by the band. They're such a tight-knit 3-piece, crunching guitar chords and a great guitar solo from Alex Lifeson on guitar. Brilliant drum work, as always, from Neil Peart and Geddy Lee, with a really good vocal and good synth and bass playing, obviously. Limelight is so great. It's a big favourite among Rush fans, I know, but I must have played that 5 or 6 times this week, easy. And going toe to toe with Limelight for the number of times that I've played the song this week is the brilliant New Gold Dream by Simple Minds. And this is such a cool song, such a great groove. It threatens to take off, but it doesn't. But everything about this song sounds perfect to my ears. It's a really well produced song. And lo and behold, new music. I must say I was quite taken by that song by Billie Eilish called Birds of a Feather, which I think came out maybe a couple of months ago. That's a really sweet song. Nice melody, well sung. I really like that. And I'm sure that some of you out there will have heard the great new single by Stevie Nicks, The Lighthouse, which was released on Friday the 27th of September. I'm a huge fan of Stevie Nicks. She's my heroine. I've listened to it 3 times now, and I must say, I'm very impressed. Stevie's soft and fragile vocals in the verses gives way to this big booming chorus, but I really like the production on this song. It's very modern sounding, but it's a really good song. And it's all to do with women's rights, which Stevie is very passionate about. Whether there's a new Stevie Nicks album on the horizon, we'll have to wait and see, but I'd welcome that with open arms. And here's a random musical tidbit for you here. Did you know that Mama Cass of the Mamas and Papas and Keith Moon, drummer of The Who, both died in the same flat? No? Well, now you do. And lastly, I thought I'd show you this as I picked it up last week. This is Uncut, the Ultimate Music Guide, the definitive edition, 172 pages, the complete story of the Beatles. Like I needed another one of these. I've picked up so many of these over the years, but the story does continue, and in this edition you get a look at the new remixes in full, Get Back reviewed, Now and Then, the saga, and classic interviews, rare photos and in-depth reviews. There's a really good interview in here which I hadn't read before with the Beatles manager Brian Epstein, where he's talking very openly and honestly about various things, including his LSD intake. And look at this marvellous picture of Paul. Doesn't he look wonderful? So that wraps things up for now. I'd like to thank you all for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for my next one sometime very soon. Until then, bye for now.